The tape. Yeah. I feel that's.
Anybody know a good joke? All right, it's 5:30. Let's bring this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the City of Harbor Springs, Michigan Planning Commission. Today is Thursday, November 21st, 2024. It's 5:30 p.m. local time. Jeff, would you take roll?
Rick Tarczynski.
Here.
Vanessa Warren.
Here.
Emily Dubé.
Here.
Bob Feldman.
Here.
Tony Johnson.
Here.
Bill Mulder.
Here.
Mark Bidet.
Here.
Barry Lustgarten.
Here.
Michael Behrman.
Here.
We have a quorum. I'd also like to introduce our new student representative this year is Annika Alonso.
Hello, Annika. Welcome. Glad you're here. And for folks that don't know, City of Harbor Springs has a cool program where high school students are able to nominate themselves and submit to sit on different boards and commissions. And they have full participation. They can share their ideas, their questions, their thoughts, but they can't vote. That's the only thing. And so Annika, are you a junior? Senior, way to go at Harbor Springs High School. Yeah, congrats. And so Annika, I just want to give you a little welcome. And so we talked about some fascinating stuff. And you submitted in your application, you said you wanted to learn how all this stuff worked. And you don't live in the city, you want to know how a city organizes itself and how it works. So that's tremendous. And we're so glad to have you. And I'm just going to tell you, if you ever need to leave in the middle of a meeting, feel free to do that. You don't need anybody's permission. You join us for as much or as little time as you need to or want to. And then this is a little delicate, but we've had some heated meetings lately. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, you're totally free to leave. No one will think less of you or anything like that. So, but I'm sure that won't happen again.
Or you could remind us to act like adults.
Yes, and so yeah, we are going to mind. That's great. We also have a new member, and it's Michael Behrman joining us as a city council representative, taking Nancy Rondell's place. And Nancy, thank you for the work that you did for us. Yeah. Okay.
Just like to point out to the planning commission members that we do have microphones, as you see. This is for the benefit of the audience. So if you remember to turn on the microphone, there's a button and you can turn it on. It'll be a green light when you want to speak. You don't have to keep it on the whole time. We don't have enough microphones for everyone, but you can share. It's just a benefit for those we have speakers in the back, and that way it's easier for people to hear us. So yeah, just a new benefit. So we have meetings where we've had meetings in the past where people have said they couldn't hear us speaking because some of us speak quieter and others are hard of hearing. So this is hopefully one way to improve the audio.
Okay, let's go to the minutes. We have two sets of minutes here. The first one is for October 17th. That was a regular meeting. And have people had a chance to review that? Any adjustments, amendments?
I move to approve the October 17th minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the October 17th minutes. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say nay. Thank you. Minutes are approved. The next set of minutes is from our special meeting. I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, Thursday, November 6th. And people had a chance to take a look at that. That might have something for us.
It was pointed out to me that there's a mistake. We did not approve any minutes at that meeting, and I left some notes in there from a previous thing. So I've already made that correction, but if we could approve the minutes with at least that correction and any others.
Just a couple name spellings that I noticed. Cora Smith Waite is with a C, not a K, Cora. And then I think it's Carter Williams and not Catter Williams at the top of the second page.
Oh, thank you. We'll make those corrections.
And then when you said this, the correction that you saw, was it that approval of the minutes? Is it that little bit that's repeated twice?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we don't normally approve minutes at a special meeting. And the November 6th meeting was a special meeting. So that whole section I will just strike out. I've already removed it.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve
All right, this is made
the amended.
amended November 6th minutes. Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Bob. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Right, those minutes are approved. All right, next thing on the agenda is public comments. And so this is a time when people can comment on things that are not on the agenda for this evening. And the things on the agenda for this evening are capital improvements plan and the zoning code redraft plan and schedule. So anything other than that is fair game for a 3-minute comment. And we're going to try to use the podium tonight with our new microphone. We'll have that. Any ideas for us today? Come on up.
First contestant.
You can turn on the microphone.
Yeah. My name is Kenny Stewart. I live at 30 Sand Drive here in Harbor. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the survey that has just gone out. Since it's not specifically on the agenda, I thought this might be the best time. Comments, first of all, it looks like it's open to everyone to take. And we know from last summer, there's a lot of people that felt angst because they didn't feel included in the process of the rezoning. Right, wrong, or indifferent, those feelings I think still exist. So I think it really behooves you as a team to get the word out that the survey is available for people to respond to. If I don't read the paper, I'm gone for the holidays down south or whatever, I wouldn't know. And then all of a sudden I'll wake up in a few months and be mad all over again. So I think it's good that you put something out, perhaps in a physical mailer, like what you did last summer, that helped describe the, the zoning code changes and so forth. Do over communicate so that people are fully aware that they can voice their concerns and their thoughts on that survey. Another one, I mentioned this to Bill Mulder, but I wanted to mention it to you as an entire group, that when I go to the Survey Monkey site, both on my tablet and also my PC, the little box of reference information doesn't show. So as a result, you're asking me what kind of offset do I want on the front of a home? And I'm given the choices, multiple choices, but there's no box of data that says, here's what the old code and the new code was specifying, and give us your thoughts in reference to that. I went again and checked it just before this meeting, and that's still a problem. So you're asking me to pull an answer out of the thin air without knowing what the codes either before or after the recode was referencing. I presume I could retake the surveys multiple times as possible. I don't know. If that's true, then obviously you have to watch against people loading data one way, biased one way or another. And so my suggestion in this is, it's when you get the data and you tally it, it won't be a representative sample of people. It'll simply indicate where are you most off course from the opinions of people. In other words, you can't tally it up and say the most votes were for number 3, so that must be what people want. Because the representation of those that took the survey isn't necessarily the ideal representation of the town. So just be careful of that when you tally those answers. It's not an indicator of what citizens want, but it will be an indicator of where are you drastically different in proposed zoning versus the opinions of the people that answered the survey. That's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody on Zoom have a hand?
Yes. We do have Peter asking.
Let's go to Peter.
Actually, my name's Ann Askew. I'm at 153 Zoll Street. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to take a moment to address communication between the city and its residents. As just mentioned by the gentleman before me, the zoning survey that was emailed to some residents, but not all, and on social media. As a marketing professional, I'm concerned that the survey will yield results that will support your goals and not a true representation of what the community's goals are. It has a strong bias and will not provide a statistically reliable sampling of our residents. It's not a good idea to have city employees or even committee members writing surveys to sample our population. Second, the Planning Commission has put forth a work plan for a zoning rewrite, but there's absolutely nowhere in that plan anything regarding communication. And the community engagement is the bare minimum with one public hearing after the rewrite is finished. So I'm questioning how we can write a zoning code without talking with the community that it impacts. And if you think the survey is going to answer that question, you are wrong, and it will be misleading our residents. It's often quoted that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. This is what is currently happening here. How can the same people that wrote and approved Ordinance 439 that was repealed by the voters be the ones to attempt to rewrite, especially deploying the same tactics as they did before? And you honestly think 6 weeks, including holidays, to write a code that took you 2.5 years last time is sufficient? 478 voters and hundreds of residents have told you they want something different, and I fear that you're not listening to them. You are also violating the best practices of the RRC, which promote proactive engagement methods that foster two-way communication. Methods like community workshops, town halls, one-on-one interviews, focus group, and canvassing. Why haven't any of these been included in your options in your work plan to communicate with the community? We, the residents of Harbor Springs, are asking you to slow down and engage us. We have great ideas. We also want new individuals to be part of the process and on our planning commission who can approach the zoning rewrite with a fresh perspective. Before this is even a discussion of rewriting the zoning, the city has to open up a dialogue that's two-way with us. We hope the goal is to bring our community together and not pit neighbor against neighbor or have another year of referendums and yard signs. We want our happy and peaceful town back. So let's work together. Let's make this a win-win for everyone. And to do that, we really need two-way communication as our best path forward. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. And we're going to talk a whole lot more about the plan and the schedule. So that's definitely on the agenda tonight. And we'll open it up for all kinds of comment during that part. Okay. Any other comments? Yes.
Hi, Karen Othfield, Birchwood. So what Kenny said about, can I talk about the survey now or shall we wait?
Why don't we
Because
wait
I'll
and
do
talk
either.
about that in relation to the schedule and process and everything.
Okay. So the other thing I just wanted to mention, especially with Mark, was about the park, Shea Park. And I drove around there and I spent a lot of time there today and I'm sort of looking at it and I'm thinking about that sidewalk that goes from maybe the boat to the railroad. And it's such a cool little park with such a nice open space. It's different from all of our waterside parks. And I am just hoping that the planning commission takes a really good look at the Shea Park improvement plan and maybe keep it open for people to run around and play frisbee and things like that.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Richard, are we gonna see the Shea Park plan again at the planning commission, or is that somewhere else then?
I think you will, because the plan includes a sidewalk and landscaping. So what the planning commission has approved is a location of the locomotive with the pavilion. But there's also the entire Shea Park plan that they presented to council.
It'll be coming back here. Okay, great.
We should take requests.
Thank you.
We do.
Okay, any other comments? Great, well, let's get into the capital improvement plan then. And Victor, what do you need from us tonight on the capital improvement plan?
All right, so annually, the city creates a capital improvements plan that must be reviewed and approved both by the planning commission and the city council. So planning commission does this annually, reviews the projects in the capital improvement plan, suggests if there are other projects that they want to put on the long-term plan or any modifications to the plan as proposed. And then what you're really looking for, one of the main things you're looking for is whether or not the projects align with the city's master plan goals. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the 2025-2030 capital improvements plan. This is a 6-year plan that involves all capital projects and purchases that look out 6 years, so 25 to 2030. It includes both those projects that the city thinks are necessary, such as street, water, electric projects, and those projects that are maybe not necessary but desirable, such as parks projects and buildings and grounds projects. The approval of the plan does not commit the city to spending that money or actually earmarking that project in a specific year. It just is kind of like a guideline and pathway forward on from staff's perspective, as well as our policy team, which we'll get into a little bit later, on their perspective on how we can attack certain projects and when. And this also gives us an idea of how much money these projects are going to cost, so we know how to do our financial planning going forward. It is a requirement by the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, which focuses on capital projects that are structures. We also include other capital purchases, such as vehicles and other expenditures that are over $10,000, because that's our definition for the city of Harbor Springs of what is a capital project or purchase. So it just gives us a more holistic approach, a more realistic look at how much money we may be needing in the next several years. As I mentioned earlier, it must be approved both by the planning commission and city council. And it allows the city to plan for the future projects and gives us an important idea of timelines. And also having this capital improvements plan is very beneficial for when we do planning grants. It shows that we have a plan, an idea of what projects we are doing and when. So this is a CIP process. It starts with September. Department heads submitting projects to the city manager. That project information includes costs, timeline, how necessary the project is, what are potential funding sources, and basic information like that. In October, I compile that information and distribute it to our policy team, which is a mix of staff and board members. And in October and November, the policy team reviews those projects and scores them based on a scoring guidelines that we established several years ago as part of our CIP policy and process. And then compile that information into a draft CIP, bring it to planning commission for review, discussion, and approval, and then to city council for final approval. City council reviews the CIP in conjunction with budget. Of course, the budget they are only approving is a 2025 fiscal year budget. And so they're not approving all these projects through 2030 as expenditures going forward, but it is beneficial to look at the capital improvements plan along with the budget. So there's a good idea of what we'll be doing the next year. So just a basic overview, you have the entire plan in your packet, but just this presentation is just a very high level overview. There's 75 projects, a total cost of $23.8 million. The average cost per project is just a little over $300,000. And there's about 9 projects that we identified that we would like to seek grants and donations for. The electric fund, as you'll see, constitutes over half of the overall anticipated spending in the next 6 years. A lot of that is due to the substation and the 46 kV line rebuild associated with the substation. Just as a reminder, this CIP does not take into purchases that are under $10,000. So if we have an electric project that's $6,000 that we have to do something on some road, or a parks project that's $4,000, those might be considered capital projects, but they're not necessarily projects that we consider in this because they're relatively small expenses. Those will be considered in the annual budget review. So this is about how many projects per fund, and you'll see that this chart has about 87 projects, and even though we only have 75 in our capital improvements plan, that's because some funds split the cost of the project. So we have some funds, for example, some projects that involve street, sewer, water, and so you would split the funds between the street portion and the sewer portion. So and you see here that most of the projects over 30 are in the electric fund. We also have quite a few in the streets fund. And the equipment fund is what we use to purchase our vehicles, such as our plows, that get rented out to our streets department or other funds. So another good example is our equipment fund includes the police vehicles. Anytime we purchase a police vehicle, it's with equipment fund money. And then the police department or the general fund rents out that vehicle from the equipment fund based on state approved rates. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the bulk of or over half of the projected fund money is coming from the electric fund. Over $12 million is projected to come from the electric fund in the next 6 years. The next year and a half of that will be about $6 million or so with the substation and the 46 kV line. But that is definitely all the other projects are well under $5 million for their funds for the next 5 years. This is just another visual of the cost as a percentage per fund. You can see the electric fund, is the bulk of that. Some of our smaller funds are the DDA and the water fund that don't anticipate relatively compared to the.
It's the little piece of pie that
Yes,
doesn't have a
it's
leader.
not labeled as the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority Fund. Yeah, you're welcome. And this is just anticipated timeline of costs per year. This is actually pretty in track with last year's CIP, where we anticipated 2025 and 2026 to be our high expenditure years. And that's primarily because of our electric projects that are happening in the next couple of years. Of course, as you get to 2029 and 2030, we have less of an idea of what projects may be coming up. We have fewer projects scheduled as we get closer to those years. You'll have more projects for those years because we'll better understand what may need to happen. But we don't anticipate them being as high as 2025 or 2026 because of our electric projects. I'll go through this relatively quickly. As I mentioned, one of the key tasks here as the planning commission is just to make sure that projects we do have align with the master plan. So we have in the first goal, which is City Harbor Springs retain its distinctive natural character, substantial bluffs, clean air, etc. We have 2 projects that somewhat align with that goal, and that's the Naturescape project at City Hall, Deer Park area, as well as a streetscape beautification project in downtown. And as you'll notice, some of these projects overlap in different goals because they meet different goals. Goal number 2 is Harbor Springs will be a vibrant community with amazing vistas and streetscape. We have the Tree Grate project, streetscape beautification, and downtown lighting. Those are all DDA projects. Goal Goal 4 talks about the recreation facilities being conveniently located, exceptionally maintained, safe, attractive, etc. We have several parks projects you see there, including the beach, city beach restrooms upgrade, Harbor View Park, Indian Town Park, Kiwanis Park upgrades, Kiwanis Park playground equipment replacement, Naturescape, and the Shea Park updates. So we have several park projects anticipated in the next 6 years that align with that. Goal 5 is also a recreation goal, but it's more talking about the recreation opportunities. That includes the bike path, boardwalk replacement, Kiwanis projects, as well as Blackbird Museum, which kind of fits into that goal because we talk about coordinating with the Historical Society on activities that are that benefit the public. So our Blackbird Museum, if you recall, that is owned by the city. It was deeded to us, and we have to operate that as a museum, and we have the Harbor Springs Historical Society manages that under contract with us. Goal 7 is also a recreation oriented goal with talking about how Harbor Springs its establishments will foster and recognize the city's resort and recreation team. Kiwanis Park upgrades neatly fit into that one. For goal 9, we talk about a vibrant waterfront area that is integrated into and easily accessible from neighborhoods, which also provides residents with a meaningful opportunity to connect to the water. And one project we have is Ford Park driveway widening, the Harbor Commission has looked into circulation issues and problems at Ford Park, and a small project here that they have is to widen part of the driveway at Ford Park to improve the experience at Ford Park. Goal 10 is also a waterfront goal. It's talking about having a harbor development and redevelopment should strive to maintain open views, and allow the public to enjoy and support a sustainable level of human use. And our harbor master building renovation fits in that goal. We are not making that building any taller or drastically expanding it. The proposal is to add some restrooms on the west side of the building. Goal 11 talks about streets, complete streets, making sure they're safe, efficient, attractive, and well-maintained, including roads, sidewalks, crosswalks, etc. They have several projects there that align with that, including sidewalk repairs and replacement throughout town, sealing our roads, fixing south parking lot here at City Hall. It's pretty torn up. Most people park on the east side or by Ottawa Stadium, but this side right here is pretty torn up, and so that's part of our CIP. Also, the bike path and the boardwalk replacement fit into the pathways, sidewalk connections. Goal 12, bike path and boardwalk fit into it. It's talking about enjoying a meaningful and inviting network of non-motorized trails. Goal 13, this is where what we view as more of our essential projects are, and that's Harbor Springs residents will experience efficient, productive, and strategic public services consistent with their desires and needs. This is where we talk about, a lot of our equipment that we need, our bucket truck, our plow trucks to clean the roads, the police vehicles, our DPW tractors, etc. Substation, that's all there. And then goal 14 is, of course, talking about our utilities. Utility service in Harbor Springs will provide clean water, power, fuel, and communication and linkages to support a prosperous community. And most of our utility services that we deal with are water, sewer, and electric. Those are the utilities we deal with here, and most of these projects are related to water, sewer, or electric projects, as you see here. That is that. Of course, there's always projects. There are the capital improvements plan, something that we added this year based on request from council last year, was an implementation matrix. So the last page of the actual capital improvements plan includes an implementation matrix that highlights what projects for 2024 that we either completed or that are still ongoing or that have not been started or have been disclosed. I can pull that up for you really quickly so you see what that looks like. This lets us know, how well we hit our mark with completing the projects. And sometimes we get to projects sometimes we don't based on other projects that show up or cost estimates or other work getting in the way. Couple of things that are ongoing is the police department is still actively looking to replace their computers. The computers are very old, and one of our projects was for them to replace their computers, and Chief Knight is still looking into contract or vendors to replace those computers. Another ongoing one is deed digitization. We have many deeds and easements that are in boxes in City Hall that we have that we're having digitized. So that way, when city staff needs to search something up, we have it. We don't have to go through boxes of information. We have it on our computers. So that's one ongoing project. And I believe the other one is Merchants Walkway. That one was supposed to start this fall, but there is some delays. So it is an approved project. So we're counting as ongoing because it was slated to start this fall, but there's just been some delays. So any questions about CIP? Any projects that you may want to recommend to City Council that need to be added, or anything else? Yes, sir.
Victor, I noticed there's 2 projects going on Glen Drive. In 2027 and 2029, involving underground upgrades and water main. Are these going to include repaving of that road? That road is in terrible shape. I ride bikes down through there and it's a hazard.
So yeah, anytime we redo water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure, it means taking up the road usually. And so as you see in this Glen Drive water main project in 2029, it's coming both from the water and streets fund, so it will involve replacing.
Okay, how much of Glen Drive is that going to be? Is that going to be the whole loop or?
It's gonna be Glen Drive and Woods Drive. I think it might.
What?
Yeah, I'll confirm. I don't know if it's the whole loop of Glen Drive, but there's a section of Glen Drive that's actually pretty decent, and then it gets really bad.
Section to Wood.
Yeah.
That's
I'll confirm with Lucas exactly what section that is.
thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Without getting into the weeds of the projects, but I know prices have been put into this. Has climate resiliency and green infrastructure been considered with these projects?
I don't think this far in advance. That is something that we do look into. I should be looking into individual projects when they come up to fitting them out. So I don't know if the costs have been incorporated estimates into that. So it's a good point.
At our last council meeting, a citizen spoke about Pine Street between Hoyt and Arbor with some pretty severe ruts in it that we've it looks like patching has been attempted, but hasn't been too successful over the years. And it's pretty dangerous. There's no sidewalks on that street. There's many of our streets, but for again, bicycle riding, as it was mentioned and so forth, it's a pretty busy street. It gets a lot of construction traffic on it, especially then seems to be a lot of construction projects on this street. So I don't know if that could be a consideration to take a look at Pine Street and consider it for at least some repatching, which I'm not sure the price tag if that would qualify as a CIP or not.
So I did talk to Lucas, our DPW director, about that. There's one thing we could try is that hasn't been done yet is there's a real there's, I guess in the center line, basically the road it's really bad. And there's, I think for $5,000 or $6,000, we potentially could make a temporary fix there and patch that up, dig out 2 feet in the middle and patch it up. So he has some solutions there that could be well under $10,000. But if we need to put it on a long-term project as a CIP project to replace the entire road, we'll have to do that.
Thank you.
Actually, just on Pine Street, I think that is, well, at least for a Fogler chip seal is in the plan for 2025.
Yes,
So I assume any repair to the pavement will be done before that.
Yeah.
Okay. General question, Victor. You talked about different funds, electric parks. So I remember them all. When projects are selected for putting into the plan for the year, the budget, are the projects selected limited to the funds available in that specific fund? So otherwise, is there any deficit spending done against the designated funds for the projects, or is it all coming from funds that are already in those specific funds?
so I guess there's kind of two answers to that question. One is, we don't know what our fund balance will be 6 years out for these funds, so we don't know, for example, project like Glen Drive project we're talking about could be $900,000, 2029, we don't know what our fund balance will be there. For the 2025 year, we budget, we put in our plan those projects that we know we would have the funds to cover. The exception is the substation, because we need a bond out for that one. So we don't have the money for that one, but it's been well established that we're gonna get a bond for that. So yes and no, we don't know what our funds are gonna be like in 2030. So if we put a couple $1 million project, and then it comes to 2029 and we're doing budgeting for 2030, well, we'll know we won't be able to do that if we don't have the money for it. So we won't put it in the plan for the following year.
Okay, so the money needs to be there for the following year's budget.
We won't recommend to council to approve a CIP plan that includes, unless we know we're gonna apply, unless we anticipate applying for grants and getting donations.
Mhm.
We've done that before where we've put something on our project, for example, the boardwalk replacement, and we put it as a general fund item, but knowing that we were fundraising for it, so that if we didn't get the money in that year, that project wouldn't happen.
Okay, and according to the implementation matrix for 2024, there's quite a few electric projects that weren't started. Was that a budgetary issue, or what caused those projects to be delayed?
All right, so the biggest project there, I think, is M119 Shore Drive Phase 3. That one has been delayed because so this project is one where we have our electric lines above ground this is outside of town going west. We have our electric lines on the south side of M119 and southwest side. And we needed to rebuild that line. MDOT said we cannot use our equipment on that side of the road, so we have to go on the other side of M119. But our line, we were to go underground, we're going underground there. We're putting the line underground. However, that right of way is so funky going through that area that there's a lot of spaces where there's not enough room in order to put our utilities underground. So we had to seek easements from several property owners. So obtaining those easements took much longer than anticipated, but we found a way to get the project pretty much planned out. I think we need one, maybe two more easements left to get, so we're almost there. So we anticipate to have that project next year. So that's one reason why that project was delayed. Other projects, sometimes we just have other things that pop up and we didn't get to them, and so we push them off to the next year. And electric projects, we tend to be electric project heavy because our electric department is our largest fund. So that's a big revenue generator, and there's a lot going on there. We service almost 4,000 customers, so well beyond the city limits. So there's a lot we do there, and a lot has to be done, met to state standards. So yeah, sometimes projects don't get done. There wasn't any of these. It wasn't a funding issue. It was more just of a workload and working together with our engineer to get these projects done. And quite frankly, substation and 46 kV line took precedence, as well as this M119 Short Drive Phase 3, getting those things in order.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey, Victor, how are these scores calculated, and are they recalculated each year as far as priority?
So for the most part, new projects are calculated every year, and then every few years we go through any old projects that are still on the plan, and then we'll recalculate those. So let me go through the scoring page really quick, how these scores happen. We have believe, 6 people on our policy team. There's, including the mayor, planning commission chair, and what else. And then we have also city staff, the DPW director, city clerk, treasurer, and myself that scores these applications. And the scoring really is to determine priority. Really, if we don't have the funds, if we have limited funds, it lets us know which projects should take precedence. So that's really the whole point of this scoring, to give us an idea of if we're low on funds, what projects should happen first. And the scoring methodology is kind of up there. It's, we look at these 6 factors. Does it contribute to the health, safety, and welfare of the community? And certain points, more points for doing that, less points, fewer points for not. Does it remedy an existing or projected deficiency? Does it conform to an existing plan or policy? So if there's a project that's not in a plan or policy, well, that's going to get fewer points because it's not something that the community has actively planned for. Does it contribute to the long-term needs of the community, right? A project that's going to last longer is going to receive more points than a project that might not last as long, unless that project. There's other scoring how important. If you go back to factor number 1, how important that project is to health and safety, right? If we needed something that was a short-term project that was critical to health and safety, then of course it gets more points. Then how large is the service area or impact? It's one of those questions of, are we replacing a street that's 300 feet long that ends, or are we replacing a street that's a quarter of a mile long that more people use quite frequently? So it's kind of weighing how large that service area or impact is. And then finally, the importance and urgency, that's the last factor to look into. Is it urgent? Do we need to get this project done, or is it just something that we'd like to see and it could happen whenever? So then we take those, we average this as policy team scores, and that's how you see the don't know how that ends. Yes. Yeah, you can keep on asking questions.
Or why don't we go into the audience for a minute, Victor, try to put the technology working. Anybody in the audience care to comment on any of the capital improvement questions, decisions, priority? So like maybe somebody on Zoom has a hand up.
Allison Larson.
Allison, come in.
Hi, Allison Larson, 255 East Bluff. Several years ago, when the sewers were replaced on East Bluff, the equipment tore up a lot of the sidewalks. And 4 to 5 years ago, we were told the sidewalks would be replaced. They still aren't. Not only are they an eyesore, they're unsafe. When can we expect the sidewalks to be replaced?
What section or what block is it by?
It's in front of our house at 255. Next door, I believe she's 271. On the other side of Spring Street, in front of the Coibert's house and going down towards 119.
Got it.
So because of our streets millage, we dedicate 35, it used to be 25,000, now it's $35,000 a year to sidewalk replacement. I can ask, DPW usually puts up a list of sidewalk priorities and for replacement. And so I can ask Lucas when he anticipates that will be on the plans, but we do have $35,000 and we replace $35,000 worth of sidewalks per year generally.
So this actual schedule for the sidewalks in certain areas will be finalized. What happens is usually Lucas will get a plan together, DPW, and present it to council on the sidewalks that we need funding for to replace. And what time of year does that have?
Depends on when he gets the quotes. It's usually the sidewalks placement will happen in spring or summer. If it's spring or fall. It depends on the contractors and depends on what else. But he does the planning. He's doing the planning right now. So okay. I can ask him what sidewalks might be considered for next year.
Are there any other Zoom hands up? Doesn't look like it. Anybody else in the audience have any questions on the capital improvement? All right. Tony, you have one?
Yeah, actually, I don't remember my other question right now, but maybe it'll come to me. Well, I would support Allison's position on sidewalks and Bluff. I mean, they are certainly in rough condition there. But it's also an area where residents, tourists, tend to spend a lot of time and just to look at the views from there. So I think if we're trying to find bang for the buck, that would be a good place to polish town up a little bit. And my other question, I still don't recall, so I'll leave it there.
So Victor, you've taken a couple ideas and suggestions. And what do you need from us at this point?
Did you remember it?
I did. Sorry. As I read through the plan, and same with last year, I found that it was because there's so much electrical in the plan, it became kind of overwhelming to find, you know, the nuggets in there, the other things, the nice haves around town. I'm sure you're gonna hate me for saying this, but as a suggestion, because electrical dominates this plan, is there any thought to perhaps splitting that out into a, you know, it's just, it seems like this is an electrical plan with a few other things in it.
I think that's a good point. I don't recommend splitting it out, but what I could do is show separate tables by fund. So that way, when you have general fund, you can see, all right, there's a table for what projects are just general fund projects. Because right now, as you see, I have them listed in this category, but you're right, they're not sortable, it's a PDF document. So I could list them out. It wouldn't be too hard just to list them out by the table for each fund. And that way you'll be able to get the nuggets of other projects and, yeah.
I think that'd be helpful.
All right, are you looking for a motion?
You need a motion to approve and recommend council approves. Well, we do got another comment. Margaret's iPad.
Hello, Margaret's iPad.
There you go. You guys hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of late to the program here, but I do, to the gentleman that spoke previously regarding electric, let me go back to so I can see the different elements. Okay, so are we talking about the meters? Are those smart meters that you're trying to upgrade into all the different houses, or what is that? The 46 kV metering structure? Can you clarify what that is?
46 kV line, that's our 46 kV line that connects our substation from the where the electricity comes in from. So that's what we're metering, how much upgrades to how much, keeping track of the electricity that's going to there and coming out of there. So that is not smart metering. Actually, our smart metering, we call it AMI metering, that is in the projected plans for
27, 28.
27 and 28. That's yeah, that would include us replacing all customer meters with smart meters.
Okay, have we talked about the health risk with those smart meters down the road? I mean, I know this is the trend, this is where people want to go, but unfortunately, those that want to opt out end up paying a higher price. And I think that we should have a discussion about what the ongoing health risk of those smart meters are, as well as the consequences if there is anything that happens. Because there's been shown, like in Boulder, where there was a fire that went through a neighborhood. None of the trees were hit, all the houses were hit, but it was because of the smart meters. And so I do want to talk about the infrastructure that we're going down and making sure that it's healthy, that we're not getting the high levels of the EMF, as well as it being safe. And so I want to make sure that we're having these discussions before we make any decisions on this. That's, I think it's important for the audience to understand and to know what is happening out there in the bigger picture of things.
Okay, thank you. And that was 27 and 28. Victor?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right. Somebody care to make a motion? to approve the CIP?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Barry. All right, any other discussion? We want to do a roll call on this one since it's financial?
Please. Michael Barron,
Yes.
Barry Leskar,
Yes.
Mark Uday,
Yes.
Bill Mulder,
Yes.
Tony Johnson,
Yes.
Tom Feldman,
Yes.
Emily Dubé,
Yes.
Vanessa Warren,
Yes.
Rick Tarczynski.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you, everybody. All right, let's move on to the better part of the agenda tonight, part that everybody's waiting for. And this is the schedule and the approach for us to take another look at the zoning code. And when we left our special meeting 2 weeks ago, everybody was very enthusiastic. Let's nail this thing. Come on, we're partway there. Let's get it done. We can get it done. I came away very enthused and put together a proposed schedule that would get this thing done really fast. And so I've gotten a lot of feedback now from city staff, first of all, from planning commission and from the public. Thank you very much for that. And so that schedule, I'm withdrawing my recommendation on that schedule, and I have put together an alternative for us to take a look at together. And so I really appreciate that. And so pretty much nobody liked it, and that's all right. That's why we're here. And for the folks who commented about the process, I and we are wide open. Let's figure out a good way to do this together. So there's no secret agenda here. Let's just figure out a good way to get it done. And so I'd like to show you an alternative schedule and see how that fits with thinking of the planning commission and the public. And here's how it could work. So 11/21 is tonight, and the purpose of our meeting tonight is to agree on the work plan and the schedule. And then we have a special meeting already booked for 2 weeks from tonight for December 5th. And that has a bigger purpose of discussing whether or not to recommend implementation of the old zoning code again, affirmatively, for some amount of time, or to do something different. And so that's the main purpose of the meeting 2 weeks from tonight. And on that one, I thought we could also review the results of the zoning survey. It should have been out there for long enough. We can tear it apart. We can criticize it. We can do whatever. But let's see what comes back. And then if people have other thoughts, we can do that as well. And then so that's what would happen in that meeting. And then on 12/19, our regular meeting date, what we could do is some group brainstorming about aspects of the zoning code that we got to revisit. And that would be, submissions from city staff, and planning commission, from the public. So this is the chance we get to put things on the board, and everything will be accepted as an idea to review. So that gives us a good foundation in December, gives us some things to think about over the holidays, and then we come back in January and get to work. And the way that this proposed schedule goes is that we would have 2 meetings in January, 2 meetings in February, and 2 meetings in March. And they'd be 2 weeks apart on our usual Thursday nights. And you can see there the first January meeting, we need to hold our annual organizing meeting. And so if we have new members, which we will, we need to get them oriented and get them welcome. We need to elect our chair and vice chair, and then we need to set our meeting schedule for the rest of 2025. We do that one time in the beginning. And so that's mostly organizational. Then we get down to business on January 16th, and we finally begin discussion of zoning code aspects for the rewrite. We'll take all the ideas that people have submitted for things to relook, and we'll look at them one by one, talk about pluses and minuses, and start to build a placeholder content for our new code. Then same thing in February, 2 meetings. And at the end of the second February meeting, we could come away with a planning commission consensus of the proposed changes to a zoning. And then we get into March and we would actually take a look at a document, the actual zoning code document. And I don't think we're gonna need a lot of verbiage and text until we get to this point. We'll ask Beckett and Rader to do the document preparation for us. And we'll all take a look at it at that time. And then hold a public hearing in our second March meeting. And that way, that's the official, last look at it before we make a recommendation to city council. And then, of course, they could do anything that they need to do. They can talk about it one time, they could talk about it 2 times, and they can make adjustments, or they could accept it as is. So my goal would be to, let's get something that really we feel has a great chance of being accepted by city council, so they don't need to re-legislate the whole thing. And we can do that. I'm wide open to any process suggestions. Ms. Askew, I would love to talk to you offline about communications ideas. You sound like you've got some ideas on that. And so that's what I'm thinking about a schedule. And now we can talk about what else makes sense. If you got some enhancements to that, it's wide open. So first of all, planning commission, do you have any thoughts on the schedule? Can you do it? We do 2 meetings a month for December, January, February, and March. I'm seeing heads are nodding around the table for those who can see. All right, so it looks like we're okay.
Sorry.
Yes, Jeff?
If I could just point out one thing, January is an odd month that has 5 Thursdays. And that we've got a back-to-back, the 9th and the 16th, which are adjacent. If you move the 16th meeting to the 23rd, you maintain that 2-week spacing throughout January and into February.
Okay.
Pretty smart.
Okay. Planning commission members, how does the flow feel? How does the pacing feel?
I think it's very reasonable. Very doable. And there's a lot of outreach, a lot of potential for comment and involvement with other people. Thank you, Tony. I think it's very reasonable, and I think that it will allow for a lot of input and comment. And it appears pretty balanced.
Bill.
Oh, sorry.
I was just thinking that it's important to remember that we'll be having 3 new people that will be appointed to planning commission.
That's right.
And 3 that will be coming off. So there's 3 people that won't have seen this yet, see like how that works.
No, we don't know who they are yet. So hopefully anyone who's submitted to be on planning commission can take a look at the schedule and plan accordingly. And yes, so most of the meat of this thing occurs after we get at least 1 new member and maybe more.
I think this revised schedule certainly reflects input that you've received from numerous people, and I think it's certainly going to be better for everybody's time. While I was certainly willing to give up every Thursday for a couple of months, so this is a little more workable.
Right. So it sounds like planning commission is good with attending and okay with the pace. So let's open it up and let's get some thoughts from folks in the room.
Mark Rondell, 181 Zoll. I want to compliment you, Bill. This is a much more realistic time frame, I think. We would just be very rushed, not if we were trying to get it all together by December. I would just like to add one thing into each of these meetings. I would encourage you to schedule a specific time period during each of the discussions for master plan assessment, prioritization, and updating, so that I guess everybody's familiar with my feeling that we should focus on the master plan. And I would like to see that as a segment of each discussion in each one of the meetings. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna think about that one. Yes.
Karen Ockfield, Birchwood, thank you very much for doing this. One thing I'd like to maybe suggest that we could do is to pull the survey and fix it before we continue with it. The problem I have with the survey, and the problem that a lot of people have talked about with me or with others, is the idea of the other being used as an answer and the I don't know. At the moment, the I don't know has about 12, it takes up about 12 of the questions. And I don't know is a way to sort of change your outcome. And so if you look it up in the Google and the internet and everything like that, you can see. And so maybe what we could do within a short period of time, and be willing to help any way I could, is remove the other and the I don't know to maybe more specific things for the survey. So make the survey better. So that's that. Another thing I'd like to ask, if it's possible, for the GCs and the builders in the audience and in the community, is would it be possible to stop the moratorium now and still waiting until going and all the way to the jail? Thank you.
Okay. Looks like Ms. Askew has her hand up.
Hi, yes, Ann Askew again, 153 Zoll. And I would be happy offline to talk with you more about communication methods. And I think the timeline is definitely better, and I think it might work more. I think it might be great if we could go fully after the holidays, because it's such a great time in Harbor Springs, and I think people would like a little break from all of this. But I do have a few comments. You really are focused on the public input at your meetings, and they seem to be limited to 3 minutes at a time. It's not a conversation. So I think we may need more opportunities to actually talk, and not just people talking at you and you not responding to them. That's a difficult way to get input. And you're the committee, and you talk about the city council and getting their input, but it's really the community that needs the input and the buy-in in this entire situation. So I think it's important that we take that into consideration, and how we can get non-committee and non-council members involved. I think it was Mr. Berman at the council meeting the other day or the other week that mentioned maybe an ad hoc committee might be beneficial. And as well, you also said you were soliciting input from other people. And how are you doing that? Are you setting up your own little groupings and talking to them offline? Because I haven't seen anything advertised where people could get involved.
Okay, let me address that. I take your point about the 3-minute part. In the last meeting we had 2 weeks ago, I tried to run it more conversationally, and I think it worked pretty well. So people were able to talk, and then planning commission people answered, and it was more of a two-way dialogue. And if planning commission's willing, we could try that again to try to make it more collaborative. That's definitely my goal, is to have it be respectful and collaborative. And I'm certain that we're gonna come to a fine answer, so. And then Ms. Askey raised another question, about the committee. Yeah, there was talk about a committee. I've been thinking about that, and I would like to run that by folks in the audience and folks at the planning commission. One of the main criticisms of the first go round was that there was a working group that came up with a proposal and brought it back to the planning commission and back to the public. In fact, city's been FOIA'd again on all the micro details about that working committee. So there's a lot of suspicion. My thought is, we're gonna have 4 to 6 meetings where we can all just do this together. And that's my take on this. And I'd love to just run it as a big working session. And I think we can do it together. So planning commission, what do you think about committee versus committee of the whole?
So I'm against
Well, we
the,
can't fix what we don't know is broken. You have to have people sit in on this to tell us what they want. Right now, we're being subjected to, we hate it, we don't want it. Well, okay, what exactly is it that you hate, that you don't want, that you'd like changed? And the only way to do that is to have some people involved in this.
Well, on 1219 as a group, we're gonna put all our ideas together.
yeah, no, I'm against the committee. I mean, we were appointed for a reason. If we have a disagreement for everything that we're gonna have all these micro committees, I think it kind of defeats how Harbor Springs has been running for the past 20+ years. So I'm kind of against it, and I feel like that if there's issues and things that need to be brought up, I think these meetings that we have scheduled is a great opportunity for people to speak. And we've been asking, like Bob said, we've been asking what changes need to be made, where we're looking to fix, and we haven't received any concrete things that need to be adjusted. So I think having these meetings and seeing what we can do, I think is a great start.
Well, I might as well speak up since I was the one that came up with that and said that. I'm not adverse to doing it with planning commission as a whole and getting authentic public feedback. I just want to ensure that the process does somehow look different, because to someone's point, first of all, we have to get community buy-in. I don't want to be sitting at the council table and going through the threat of another referendum or whatever. I want to ensure that we produce a product that the community buys into, that feels involvement with, but also checks the boxes that are really necessary, aligns with the master plan, addresses some of the areas that we need to address in terms of different types of housing and so forth. Everything that's in that master plan. And we all have to realize that just like 478 people voted yes to repeal it, there were a large number of people that also wanted to keep it. And you will never get 478 people. They all had different reasons of maybe why they didn't like it. So you'll never come to a zoning code that everybody thinks is absolutely perfect. And we have to have enough trust and faith in this community where you don't get everything you want. That's not how life works. And So, but on the other hand, we do need to ensure that we have buy-in, but people have to come into this realizing that if I'm gonna go to the wall for every single thing I want, and I won't accept anything less than that, then, we're just gonna go around in circles. Or, God knows how long. So I'm not adverse to keeping it, not going the small committee route, but I just want to ensure that we have a buy-in from our public.
I agree. To keep the public out of this, just continues to open the door to dissension. We'll never be able to get common ground unless we open the door and look for it. It's that simple. We'll never satisfy a certain group of taxpayers who will continue forever to say they've been left out. We shunned them. We did it in the dark. We did it in Bob's crawl space. We're doing it in the back of Thomas' truck while he's driving down the road. Every excuse you can think of. So we might as well involve everybody and get it over with. Let the chips fall where they may.
So with that, I would like to explore other ways than ad hoc meetings. We're just in the same spot with, did we bring the right people to the table? Did we bring the right people to the table the first time? Would we do it a second time? But if we have things like open houses or coffees, or if we can get the plan out as it's evolving to folks, I just think that we could open houses. There's just other ways to invite people.
First people you invite are the people who complain the most.
Yeah, I understand, but this can be a contentious setting too. There's people that I can't get to this meeting because it's contentious. So if we can have other meetings where people might feel a little bit more comfortable, I'd just like to explore some other things.
Kenny Stewart, 30 Sand Drive within the city. You have a market research problem. And this revised plan is better, but you still have a problem and you're going to be setting yourselves up for failure, I think. Let me just go through some suggestions on how to make it better. December 5th, review results of zoning survey. By putting it out already, you're setting up expectations for what people think is going to happen from that survey. You need to define the process for writing the results from that survey and tell people. You also have to explain to people how will you use the data once you get it. Otherwise, people are going to make up their own truth about it, and you've got a new problem. Next thing, after December 19th, or right there, either part of it or right after, you need to set up a focus group. There's what, 10 of you? Why don't you ask whoever is representing the side that supported the repeal, find 10 people that can represent their causes. Have them list them out ahead of time, think through them. Have a focus group right here as an official meeting. All the public can come and watch it, but at least you can get a dialogue started so it gets questions asked, suspicions crossed off, and you get to move back and forth. I've been part of this process and I would agree with a lot of the people that don't like it, because you give your 3 minutes and then you folks, because it's your job, you say, thank you very much. And that's it. And so you never really get a resolution to your argument. Now, final thing, you're beginning the discussion of the zoning code aspects on the 23rd of January. And then by the 20th of February, come away with planning commission consensus of proposed changes. You've decided what to change and how to change it by that point. So that's 1 month, really. So you've got to over communicate this stuff and make sure people feel they're part of the process between now and whether it's February 20th or some other date. Because by then the ink is drying and then all they have to do is watch you like it or not like it. And then you get the process all over again, what we had last summer. Thanks very much.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. You, ma'am.
Lisa Nichols, 638 West Bluff Drive, registered voter. I think we also have to remind everyone that they need to get acquainted with the master plan. I know many people don't know anything about it, and they need to read it. And there's actually one that talks about how the proposed zoning code aligns with that master plan. I'd also like them to get acquainted with the zoning code, the one that we have right now. That was repealed and on moratorium, because I think a lot of people are spouting things that they don't really know what the code says. So before they come to these meetings where we're all gonna work together, whether it's a town hall or whatever format we decide on, they need to be educated and know what they're talking about, not just regurgitating what they've heard or got in their post box. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Georges, 355 East Bay. One, thank you. I'm so glad that you've given us more time. Two, I think when we originally set up our agreement with Beckett and Rader, did it not include that it was gonna start in February, they were gonna meet with all the people in the districts that were being rezoned, and then it was gonna come out October 24th, wasn't that the original calendar? That was, but it seems that during the course of that, you all decided not to go to the public in each one of the districts as you decided to implement new zoning. So I think it's a great idea that we meet and talk to these people because they clearly have an opinion. And it's not necessarily negative, it's just differing. So if you could meet with each one of the districts, or like Mark suggested, you know, if we're going to sit down at these meetings, have each district represented so that, you know, they can say, I don't really want to be TR, central business or agriculture or this, they can actually give you their opinions. And to speak to Mr. Toma, yes, we did present this committee with what we had suggested and what the ideas and opinions are from the people that repealed 439. So it isn't as though it's in the dark. It may just be a really long laundry list. So thank you for changing.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Karen O'Donnell, 644 Ann Street. Two things, comments on the survey. I did find it difficult to fill out the survey because I didn't know enough about some of the questions to really answer things like lot width and lot depth. I'm thinking about the size of my lot. How big is it? You know, it was hard for me to answer some of those questions. So I'm afraid that some of the answers may not get to what the question was really looking for. Secondly, on the start of the process, because I'm really confused about what things people really dislike about the current or the one in moratorium zoning code. I'm not really clear about that. And so when the planning starts, where are you as a planning commission going to start? Are you going to start by scratch, or are you going to start by reviewing the first zoning code, the original one, or are we looking at the one that was passed by city council and then was turned down by the electorate at the vote? So I'm just really not sure where the criteria is going to start, because that would be really helpful for all of us that are many of us will be attending a lot of these meetings, like what the process is going to be like. Is it we're going to look at this building height in this meeting? Are we going to look at how many codes we want to have? I mean, how many neighborhoods we want to have? What are we going to look at? So as I look at the whole picture, I'm not sure where we're starting. And that would be really helpful to know when this whole process restarts again. Thanks.
So let me explore a little bit more.
We do got a hand up.
Oh,
Rick had it.
Yeah, couple of quick things to mention here. I was on the committee that worked on writing 439. We met mostly weekly for a good year. We reported back to the committee the commission, every couple months to let everybody know where we were, what we were thinking. So it was out there. If people were coming to meetings, they knew what was going on. We didn't work in the backyard and write this all in the weekend and then come in and say, we're gonna do this. So a lot of effort went into this and a lot of time. And what we have to do now is come up with something new. And because of all the grunt work that we did on this 439, I would think we're probably gonna start there and winnow out what people don't like. Because everybody wants to get this done quickly. And it's not something you can redo quickly. Looking back on the year and a half that was spent putting this last piece together. So I think the best way to go about it is to start with 439, find out exactly what people don't like about it, and start discussing it and have a compromise and see what we can come up with working together. Now, as far as the survey goes, Mr. Stewart had some concerns about people stuffing the ballot box. I don't know for sure, but I did the survey on my phone. And I gave my phone to my wife to take it. It wouldn't let her because it said I'd already taken it. So I'm assuming there is some sort of safeguard put in there to prevent people from stuffing the ballot box. So
That happened with my laptop.
and Bob says that happened with his laptop also. So I don't think we have to worry about people stuffing the ballot box. You know, I'm not gonna sit there and do 500 a day with the number that I know. So I apologize for the numbers in the survey. I had to go back and look at my property lines and what we came up with on 439 to figure out what I wanted to put on the survey. So that might have been a bad thing on our part, or maybe if people that didn't like it, they were familiar with the numbers, they should have known, but anyway.
I think I can speak to that if you want me to, yeah. So the planning commission didn't put together the survey, it was put together by itself with the help of staff here, and one of the purposes of the survey is to give the planning commission some guidance on some of the issues that or some of the thoughts and opinions of the public. As we know, almost 900 people showed up to vote on the zoning code. Not 900 people, 900 people do not show up to planning commission or city council meetings. Most of those people don't show up. I'll first start with the communication methods. So the people that were emailed the survey, those were the 310 that are signed up to receive email alerts from the city. So that's why those people got those emails. We did send out the past few days to 250 random households a letter to take the survey so we can encourage a more representative sample. So that's another way, in addition to putting it in the Harbor Light and on the website and social media. I think we'll have several hundred people who take it. As far as the I don't know in other columns, on one hand, you had 900 people almost that were confident enough to vote on a whole zoning code, whether or not it should be repealed. They should be able to answer questions on why they repealed them, including what is with setbacks, story heights. If they can vote to repeal an ordinance or approve an ordinance, they should be able to take the effort to understand these things. And if not, that's why we have the I don't know category and the other category. So if they don't really know, they can choose the I don't know category, or if they have other solutions or other options that aren't listed there, they can select them. So yes, it may be confusing to people, but people voted out to repeal the whole code. They should take the time, if they care about it, to understand what these things are and what they mean. And these things that we're talking about, that there are some of the bigger issues with the zoning code related to lot size, density, development, how high things are going, how wide things are going, how small things are going. That's some of the crux, and also the development review process. So I understand and I sympathize with people who say, you know, well, I don't understand this. Well, you should try to understand it, because this is what we're talking about. And I do think we're gonna have a strong representation We already have a strong representation of people who've taken the survey. It's well over 200. It's gonna get higher. A lot more people are gonna take it. I think we'll be able to come to the planning commission with staff's ideas and recommendations based on those survey results combined with what the master plan says. And then that'll give you just food for thought, and the planning commission can run with that and bring their own ideas. But part of our job is to while the iron is hot, while it's on people's mind, while people have some knowledge of ideas. If you wait too long to start questioning people and asking people what they think about the zoning code, it's gonna be out of mind, out of sight for many people. So now is a good time to gauge where the public stands right after it's revealed, to understand why they're thinking what they're thinking. Why I didn't express specifically were the questions of comparing the old code versus the new code, or the new code that was repealed, is because we're not trying to find out what people think about the old code versus new code. We want to try to find out what they think about these specific issues that we are related to density and related to development. You know, does it matter for development review process if the old code said it one way and the new code said it one way? I think what matters is, what do the people want to see? Do they want to see the planning commission review duplexes? Do they want to see no duplexes? Do they want to see it be an administrative? Whether the old code said that or the code of repeal said that, doesn't matter as much as if that's what the people want to see, because we want to know what the people, what they were thinking when they repealed it. If we phrase the questions too generally, what don't you like about the old code or the new code that was repealed? You'll get a lot of general answers like, we don't want to see overdevelopment, we don't want to see things change, we don't want to see higher density. Well, we don't know what those specifics mean. So we're trying to get to specifics with the code, and that's staff's planning commission can take those results or not. And if you want to do a new survey, that's fine as well. But I think you'll get some good information from these, and maybe some questions are going to be a little less harder to discern what actual information, we can actually do with that information, but it'll be helpful. So we'll definitely do more ways to communicate to the public, but I think we're going to have a good representative sample of people taking the survey. As far as IP addresses, SurveyMonkey, I can already look at to see how many IP addresses have taken the survey. And IP addresses is just people in the same network, doesn't mean the same device. And there's probably been about a dozen or so, and the answers are wildly different from that. So that's probably someone in the same household business who have taken the survey. So I'm not really too concerned about people stuck in the box that way. Of course, people may not be honest with their residency status. You know, they may say they're in City of Harbor Springs versus in Little Traverse Township. I don't know. I hope people wouldn't be dishonest about that, but some may. But I feel like it's not going to be large enough of a concern. I think with mailing it out to residents to get a good representative sample, I think we'll get somewhere good there. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
Okay, so survey may not be perfect. People have concerns. We have concerns. It's not, we'll never treat it as the ultimate authority. It's just a data point for us all to consider. Oh, Tony says, use the microphone. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What about, can I speak?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, it was on. Tip Easterwood, I live just outside the city limits. And I have a question about the 12/19 meeting.
Yes.
It's 5 days before Christmas. Maybe that meeting could be a little less all-encompassing to identify the zoning code aspects for review. That seems like a huge task. So thank you for this cordial meeting. I wasn't expecting that after hearing about the last one. But that's what my concern is. It's 5 days before Christmas, and I love the spread out agenda. I think it might be a little heavy on the 19th.
Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you. That's our normal planning commission meeting date. We're going to probably be meeting that day anyway for whatever else comes up on the agenda. So, I'll make you a bet. I think we're going to have less than a dozen substantive aspects to review together. What do you think? We could probably name them over a beer in about 10 minutes. So I may be wrong, maybe a huge list, but I bet it's going to come down to a dozen of us. Yes, Karen.
Karen Chowdhury again. I just want to clarify what I said based on what you said in response, Rick. I think you guys worked your butts off getting this done and lots of public meetings. And that's not what I was saying, that you weren't doing that. I really believe that. What I said is I was confused over what the clear objections were to what you created on 439. That's what was not really clear about. And even to this day, I'm not totally clear about. So by focusing on certain topics, as you said, Bill, that might help clarify. And also what you said, Victor, in terms of how the survey was put together, that was helpful too. I just want to clarify that that's what I meant. I didn't think you didn't work really hard at putting it together. For sure.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, so Chip.
Yep. Good evening, it's Chip Everest, 4 Beach Drive. I want to thank you for extending the schedule for sure. But when you say that everybody's in a hurry to get this done, I'm not in a hurry to get this done. I'm more focused on what Michael said about getting a total product that has public buy-in. That's more important than the schedule to me. And so I think that should be noted. And you know, when the city put together that list of the old code and the new code items and why the new code was so much better, I'd like to see a third column about what the opposition thinks is bad about the new code. So it's fair, hopefully neutral document that's produced by the city. It gives everybody kind of a feel of what everybody's issues are with the new code on the negative side. And fourthly, I mean, you know, Victor, for telling what a voter should or shouldn't know about before he votes is pretty presumptuous. So I'm pretty offended by that. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, my vision is we're gonna raise an issue, you know, it'll be number one on the list of brainstorm issues, and we're gonna talk it through as a group. We're gonna talk about the pluses and minuses. We're gonna talk about concerns. We're gonna talk about, you know, what advantages these could bring, and then we're gonna come up with a consensus. And the guys at the table here are the ones who have to do that, so we'll get that on paper. And we'll have a worksheet instead of a big 180-page document so that we can all follow along, kind of a scorecard. And I know we can work through this. I know we can get a fine result, and we can do it.
I just want to clarify too, Chip, I appreciate those comments. However, I don't want this to drag on for months and months and months. Not that accomplished. I don't think it could be accomplished in a month or month and a half over the holidays. But I do want to see a product as a city council member. Also, I think that's a function that I have. I'd like to see something coming to council, not months and months and months down the line. I want to see something sooner than that. I can't give an exact date, and I don't think that's right to do, but I appreciate that. But yeah, I just don't want to see this drag on in our community. Like, we need to move past this and tackle other issues that we, you know, have in our community to make life better for all of our residents, visitors, and so forth.
Yeah. So Chip, I take your point definitely, and in terms of the speed. So we always have the ability to adjust the schedule. This is a starting point, and let's, you know, we'll take the temperature as we develop here.
I'd like to respond, Chip, there. I think the voters are very capable of answering those questions. I think it's not presumptuous to make the case that if they are able to vote on a repeal of ordinance, they're able to answer questions about the zoning code. And if they don't know, they have answered, I don't know. So I'm not sure why that's presumptuous, but I do think that our voters are people, we have a smart populace, and they understand most of the issues before them. So they should be able to take the survey. And if they don't know those answers, they can either seek them out or they can not answer that question. I'm not sure why it's kind of presumptuous to assume that someone can vote to repeal or not repeal a zoning code, but not answer or try to understand questions about what's in that zone. And I'd also like to say, I think there's a lot of validity to Chip's proposal about creating a third column. However, how that column gets created, was it created, we don't know the reasons why 900 people voted the way they did. We know some, we know some reasons why some people voted the way they did, but we do not know what particular issues are, for people who voted no, are their key issues. So I hope the survey can provide some guidance as to where people are thinking on some of these specific issues, and then we could have, potentially a column, but it would need to be, we would need to consider how we go about creating that third column.
Sure.
Because is it created by people that attend these meetings, which usually are about a dozen or so, or is it attended by, a true representation of what people believe?
Thank you, Victor.
If I could just add two quick comments regarding a couple things here. So one, if somebody feels like they don't know the answer or what they would like to say with these, and they feel like they have to, put something in the I don't know column, feel free to contact city staff. I'm not going to tell somebody how I think they should vote, but I will try and provide some insight as to what some of those things mean, so that they feel more informed to put something in a column other than I don't know. The other thing I'd like to point out is that both to planning commission members and people in the audience, I think the longer schedule is great. It provides more opportunity for feedback from the community, but at the same time, we have a lot of property owners with pending projects that are really waiting to see what the outcome is. We have a builder here tonight who is, put out by some of these changes and the delay and the unknown. So the longer this process takes, excuse me, they're left with this feeling of we don't know how to proceed. And we're already pushing this out to March, where people feel like they can't make any decisions or move forward on projects until then. So I just like to make sure that we encourage everybody to move as quickly and get as much feedback as we can during this time, so that it doesn't take even longer.
Got it, thank you. All right, I feel like we're bringing it together here, but we have 4 hands up on Zoom. So folks on Zoom, can you give us your comments? Let's make it a lightning round.
All right, Margaret, Maggie.
Yes, this is Maggie Lacey, 315 East 3rd Street. I just, I think we keep on talking about, the public know, we need to get community buy-in on this. And Victor, you had mentioned something at the council meeting, and I had looked up some information, and that is the statewide housing plan. And this was something that was the first statewide plan that Michigan has released in 2022. There's 15 different zones, and that is our zone is D. And of course, that is Housing North. And you had mentioned that the master plan has to have, talked about a housing plan including into our master plan. So I do encourage you all to go to the top line of what the state wants, if this is what we are trying to do, because if you read through this and you look at the action plans that Housing North has, it does talk about implementing a zoning code to encourage the different strategies for the housing plan that Michigan is trying to execute. And so how many of you all that's on the planning committee know about the Michigan housing plan? If you can raise your hand, that'd be great. Because I'm on Zoom. Is this part?
I'm aware of it. I can't tell you every detail. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like there is a higher level of information that we're trying to achieve, but we're going at it at a town level, really not understanding what we're trying to do. And I think we need to reverse it and have the community understand, do we want to go down this path and what this means? Because Housing North comes in and they give us their talking points, but I think the bigger picture of changing some of these zonings is going to have a bigger impact long term. And I think the community needs to know this. And so with that, I do believe, yes, I understand there are builders and developers that are on hold, but I think it would be a disservice to our community if we really don't vet the bigger picture of what Michigan wants to achieve, and if we want to be a part of that. We already implemented on the last council meeting that they are part of our waterway. I don't agree with that. I would rather not have the state involved in our town. You know, we're small. I don't believe we need to be just like everybody else. We're unique. Why can't we solve some of these problems on our own versus going down the road of having the state involved? Housing is an inflationary issue right now. Until we change some of those issues, the water will settle. And so if you look at Austin, Texas, what's happening to that city right now, they went down the road of what we're talking about, and now they can't even rent out all of their different properties that they have out there. So I think that we need to look at the economics of this. And I do agree, if we do bring together a committee, look at the economics, look at some of these other pictures, and look at other towns that have already implemented this and what happened. Because I don't think we should be a cookie cutter or a boilerplate executing out what the state wants. And so if people don't know about this, I encourage you to go to the Michigan State Plan and look at this information for yourself and read about it, and then drill down to what the different action plans that Housing North has to submit each quarter to what they're trying to achieve. And it's a statewide housing plan. And a lot of people don't know that the state is doing this. And I don't even think developers know this. So with that said, I just think that we should have more transparency at the bigger picture of what we're trying to execute down to a city level from the state. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, my focus is definitely on the city. Let's just get a zoning code that works for us.
And I'll clarify, so what I mentioned at the city council was that the legislature, the governor just signed recently a bill requiring all master plans to have incorporated a housing strategy into them. So this is separate from what Maggie is talking about, that in our master plan going forward, we're gonna have to have a housing strategy incorporated into it. So that's a separate topic. In a way, it's tied into it, but that housing strategy is something that if we're gonna have a master plan and we're gonna have zoning, we have to have that in our master plan.
Great. Okay, and let's go to Maureen Kenny.
Hi there, good evening. Victor, can you repeat who wrote the survey? I'm hearing different things. It seems like it's a little bit all controversial in terms of the quality of the survey is what I'm hearing. Who wrote the survey, please?
I put the survey together with help of staff.
Okay, so there was not an outside consultant used?
Do you mean by outside consultant Beckett and Rader?
Anybody who's experienced in this area?
I consulted with staff, and that includes our planning consultant, yes.
And is Beckett and Reeder the planning consultant?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a lot of controversy in what these results are gonna show, is it worth getting somebody, not Beckett and Reeder, to redevelop that survey in a more non-biased manner?
We are the staff hired to do the work. If city council wants to contemplate looking at someone else to do the work, but we are the staff and the consultants for the planning commission and for the city council.
Okay, and the second comment I have, it seems like it was 2 years of subcommittee of the PC that was writing this plan, again, not minuted, not recorded, yet there's some resistance tonight to form a subcommittee. And I think it would be very beneficial to have a subcommittee of a variety of people, I think as Mr. Berman had said at the last meeting and then kind of reiterated again tonight. I think it should be, even if it's a subcommittee, I think in all fairness, it should be minuted and recorded at all times so that folks can go back if they missed it, or if they weren't able to attend, or if they just want to read something. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We have, is that
Molly Keegan?
Molly Keegan.
Hi, this is Molly Keegan, 397 East Main Street. And listening to, the very different opinions on the timeline, I just don't think it's really fair to not reinstate the old code until such time as you come up with the new code. Because it sounds like this might be fast tracked. And then on the other side, people are saying, no, we don't want it fast tracked. And I was trying to think of a good analogy to compare that to. But the absence of something is, I don't think, a viable service to the community. I think, at a minimum, reinstate what was and then, work to improve it. So that's what I have to say.
Great, thank you. And on December 5th, 2 weeks from tonight, the Planning Commission will be meeting again to talk about whether or not to recommend affirmatively re-implementing the old zoning code for some period of time or to take some other action. So we do have time set aside to talk about that specifically. And yeah, I feel the pressure. I feel the clock is ticking for folks who need to do work.
Right.
So, thank you. And let's see, Ms. Askew.
Thanks. I just wanted to follow up, and the woman 2 speakers ago said something about it as well. Did I hear correctly that you met weekly to write the code last time? The gentleman next to you, Mr. Mulder, had said that, and a lot of the work went on then. Was that something that the public was invited to? Was it noticed? Are there minutes we can read to see some of the issues that were addressed and what you discussed?
I didn't attend, so this is Victor speaking. I didn't attend many of these meetings. I attended a few of them. Maybe I don't think it was weekly necessarily. I think it was every other week. I think he felt like it because sometimes there was 2 planning commission meetings a month, sometimes 1, and sometimes there was a working subcommittee. That committee, I think Ms. Kenny had said earlier, was going on for 2 years. It actually was only going on for about 8 months or so. The zoning code rewrite started in the summer or the late spring of 2022. The committee was formed in spring of 2023. So it met several times. It was a working subcommittee. It reported back to the Planning Commission. We have several such subcommittees from the DDA to the City Council that have committees, and those committees don't have minutes or official agendas. They're not a quorum of the board that appointed them and formed them. So no, there's no agendas or official minutes. Not something that we ever have historically done with any subcommittee in the city. Sometimes people take notes, but they're not official.
Okay, so they're not subjected to the Open Meeting Act that you've referenced in past meetings, so they're not subjected to the same rules.
So the Open Meetings Act states that any committee that is not a quorum of a board that doesn't have any final rulemaking abilities or authorities is not subject to the Open Meetings Act. So if that board in itself did not have the ability to make legislation and only acts in an advisory capacity to the board that created them, they're not subject to the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. And also, Mr. Raymer stated that we are under the old zoning code legally. So if builders need to get to work, they always have that as well. So, as Chip said, maybe taking our time and getting it right is more important than being expedient. But thank you. Thanks for a good meeting.
There's 2 aspects I'd just like to clarify Mr. Raymer's opinion. He spoke to this, is that it is opinion that the old code would be in effect, but to be safe, that we need to Planning Commission has to hold a hearing to re-adopt the old code because the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act requires a public hearing in order to adopt the code. So that's why we're having this hearing at the 12/5 meeting the main reason there is while we can operate under the assumption that the old code is in effect, if it potentially be challenged, we don't want to have a court decide whether or not that's the case. So but re-adopting the old code through a public hearing is very important.
Yes, ma'am.
One more thing. Can you make a motion to relieve the moratorium and adopt the new code tonight? Why do we need to wait till the
That's a
fifth?
city council decision.
Can you make a recommendation to the council?
The planning commission already made a recommendation to city council to have a 35-day moratorium until they decide, by this public hearing.
I understand that. Can that be amended to speed it up a little bit for the builders?
Yeah.
That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we're bound to have a public hearing, which required X amount of advance notice. And using the belt and suspenders approach to make sure that the city is protected. The attorney has advised us to please go through the process. And we couldn't have the meeting next week because of the holiday. So this is the first time we could have it, but we're going as fast as we can. So, all right, well, I feel like we're bringing this together. Got a lot of good input tonight. What I've heard, we sum up, is people are generally in support of the schedule and the approach to start out. We've got concerns about the survey, got concerns about how that data is going to be used. We have we've leaned away from having a committee. You know, there was just criticism tonight about the committee process, so let's not get into that again. Let's do it as a big group here, and I know that we can do it. And then consider some extra ways to communicate. And I don't know what those are yet, but I'd like you all to think about that. You know, if we need to have some meetings outside of these or whatever you think is best. So, all right, planning commission members, do you feel like we've nailed it for tonight? All right. Well, then let's close that part of the agenda. Is there any other old or new business from the members?
I would like, no. I would like to have the planning commission make a motion to commend staff, Victor, Jeff, and John, and also our chairman for the work they've done to bring something that is very contentious into balance. I think they've done a great job, and I think we should recognize them. Here.
Yes.
So, make it.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You opposed? Okay. All right. I think we nailed it for tonight. Thank you, everybody who came out tonight. This is what we need, and I'm positive we're gonna come out with a fine result. So look forward to working on it with, I can't wait. Thanks. Meeting